April 24th, 2024 meeting for the Franklin Board of Education. Great news to start out. We have the ceremonial oaths of office for Dr. Beer, Dr. Khan, and Mrs. Sapersky. So we'll start with Dr. Beer.
I'll go to the well. The what?
Please raise your right hand. Dr. Beer, having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your abilities, so help you God?
I do. Thank you.
Dr. Khan, having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God? Congratulations. And last but not least,
It's okay.
Mrs. Sapersky, please raise your right hand. Having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Where's the family? Oh, they couldn't make it tonight.
Great, please.
Not tonight.
Come on up, all Khans, please.
Alex says the other one's family loves him tonight.
Right?
I could barely get people where they needed to go. She's coming. Very nice.
I love that the sisters are bringing each other in rather than pushing each
Yes,
other
that
out.
is really nice.
Might be different at my house.
Thank you so much.
Brittany's one of our board, or not?
I mean, at least those three are looking wonderful. Sure, let's have one on the board.
Oh.
Great idea.
Not see this coming.
Oh, I always get in the middle.
You're the president. Rapid fire.
It's the editing that she's really great at.
And all the magic happens in post. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Please.
Thanks, Maxine. Thanks, Archie. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, honey. I appreciate it. That's so kind.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Lexi.
The meeting has been properly posted. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Sprague?
Here.
Dr. Beer?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
Dr. Khan?
Yeah.
Mrs. Sapersky?
Here.
Mrs. Yank?
Here.
We are all present.
Thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, agenda approval. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Witkowski and Mrs. Sapersky got in under the wire for second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Election of board officers. We will go in the order of president, vice president, treasurer, and clerk. There are ballots in front of you and a blue pen, so that this is the only ballot for the year that can be a secret ballot. So everybody has the same color pen. Everybody has different sheets for president, vice president, clerk, and treasurer. So I will look for nominations. Nomination does not have to be seconded, and it does not have to be accepted. We will go in the order of president, vice president, treasurer, and clerk. So I'm looking for nominations for the office of president.
I'd like to nominate you, Mr. Sprague.
Thank you. Any other nominations for the office of president? All right, any nominations for the office of president? Those are closed and we can have a voice vote. All in favor of Mike Sprague for board president? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much all, and thank you for the confidence. I'm looking for a motion for the office of vice president.
I'll nominate Angie Beer for vice president.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to
Linda.
nominate Maksud Khan for vice president.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? All right, hearing none, please vote on the blue sheet. Ms. Pickler will pick up the ballots.
In a sandbox, Troy.
Fancy.
Okay. 1, Angela Beer. 2, Angela Beer. 1, Maksud Khan. 2, Maksud Khan. 1, Angela Beer. I'm sorry, 3, that would be 3. 3, Maksud Khan. And 4, Angela Beer.
Thank you. 4 votes for Dr. Beer. She will be the board vice president for 24-25. I'm looking for nominations for the office of treasurer.
I nominate Maksud Khan for the office of treasurer.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of treasurer? Linda, please.
Yes, I would like to nominate myself for reasons previously stated.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of treasurer? Are there any other nominations for the office of treasurer? All right, hearing none, please vote on the pink sheet.
One, Maksud Khan. 1, Linda Witkowski. 2, Maksud Khan. 2, Linda Witkowski. 3, Maksud Khan. 3, Linda Witkowski. And 4, Maksud Khan.
All right, Dr. Khan has 4 votes. He will be the treasurer for the 24-25 school year. And now I'm looking for nominations for the office of clerk. I'd like to nominate Debbie Larson for the office of clerk. Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? Hearing none, the nominations are closed, and we can have a voice vote. All in favor of Debbie Larson? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to community comment. I'm not going to read through the community comment, but Ms. Karalewicz and Ms. Dreyer, I assume that you'll be under 3 minutes. You can rock, paper, scissors between the two of you to see who wants to go first.
No arm wrestle.
Hello, friends. I've been here before. As someone who has dedicated 33 years to teaching within this district, I have consistently made sacrifices, including accepting pay cuts in order to maintain access to high-quality health insurance. The importance of health insurance coverage cannot be overstated, particularly for individuals like myself who rely heavily on it. After carefully considering the options presented to us by Mr. Cromie this past Thursday, the staff voted that option 5 was the most favorable. And yet tonight, Mr. Cromie will ask you to consider option 4. I find myself struggling to maintain a positive outlook when the district that I have loved my entire life asked us to vote and then ignored those results. Why did we vote? While I understand the necessity of making adjustments to balance our budget, the extent of the increases in deductibles far surpasses what was anticipated and what I personally can afford. With this option, I will be taking a more than $4,000, closer to $5,000 loss annually. Recently, veteran teachers like myself have not gotten the same increases as others. So we are already starting at a deficit. Why are veteran teachers who have given most of their lives to this district not worth the same or even more than other teachers? It is my belief that the burden of resolving the deficit should not solely rest upon the shoulders of myself and the staff. However, it is not too late. I believe there is significant value in fostering collaboration between staff, administrators, and board members to find a mutually agreeable solution which benefits us all. I do not want to risk my own health on an unknown entity like the Garner app. Let's take next year to do just that. This will fulfill our motto of being a better place to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Karalewicz, please.
I'm sorry I didn't bring flowers. Maksud, awesome. Congratulations, Angie and Maksud, on your reelection. Your reelection to our school board will provide stability to district decisions for another year. I also thank all the board members for considering my comments, both written and verbal, regarding matters that concern the welfare of your school staffs, in particular those of us who have direct contact with the students and families in our district. I know that tonight you will possibly take action on a health insurance plan that will increase costs to your employees taking the insurance and reduce the cash in lieu of contributions to those that don't. Did you know that over the course of the last 10 years, public education employees, particularly teachers and support staff, earn on average 6.4% less when adjusted for inflation than they did in 2013, 2014. Many of our dedicated Franklin staff, especially those who have faithfully served our youth and families for anywhere from 15 to 30 plus years, have not received the benefit of a true CPI raise over the course of that time either. So this change to their insurance benefit will cost them again, even if there is reimbursement. How will this cost increase be remedied? If it isn't remedied, what will be the impact of ongoing pay cuts due to inflation be on staff retention? In the spirit of information sharing that I stated in my email that you all received last night, I would like to invite any board member to meet with the FPEA during compensation discussions and hear our concerns in this overall context. In years past, there is a history of board members sitting alongside administrative management and teacher support staff to negotiate annual compensation increases. Mrs. Larson and Mrs. Witkowski, you may both recall that it was common for the school board members to participate in these annual negotiations. I know I had that experience when I served on this board. We would be pleased to meet with you along with Ms. Lancourt and Mr. Cromie during our next couple months. I believe that any one of you would find this experience useful for understanding the experience of your professional educators and support staff and exploring ways to value and retain them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that closes community comment. I'm looking for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Larson, seconded by Mrs. Yank. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I don't understand why I couldn't find the word approve up
It's
there
okay.
somewhere. School board calendar, regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, May 8th and Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024, both at the ECC, both at 6 o'clock. District Administrator update. Mrs. Bennett, please.
Good evening. It's exciting to present at the last meeting of April. It's fun that I left a library board meeting last night and someone was like, how many days are left? I said, we don't count down, we count up. It's an exciting time of year. There's a lot of things to celebrate. Just in my last visits, the last 2 weeks at Countrydale and Ben Franklin, so Thursdays I spend most of the day in schools. It's been really great to see our students. They've adapted to the workshop model. They've moved about the classroom and engaged in their learning. They can tell you what they're learning about. There's not time lost to the work that's taking place in the classroom, and it's a really big, exciting moment, as when you're in those classrooms at the beginning of the year, it doesn't look like that. So it's a shout out to our great administrators, our great educators in the classroom, like really working to build that with the students. Concerts, I could go through the whole list. It's part of that great count up to the end of the year, but there's 17. Like pretty much every one of our students will be at the Saber Center performing. So if you're looking for anything on almost any weeknight, that's your place to go, and you'll be entertained and excited and rejuvenated by the energy of our educators and our students. We have our high school honors awards coming up, and so many other great moments. So if you have a moment to stop by schools, do your liaison visits, it's definitely a great time of year to just see those culminating moments. I know tonight we have insurance decision ahead of us. That's no surprise to anybody at this point in time. I do want to thank the staff for letting us present in the schools over the last couple weeks. And Andy and Laura for putting the time into presenting. I'm glad that we were able to do this. I'm saddened by the fact that it felt like it wasn't clear and transparent to begin with. But what I enjoyed in these visits is that Andy, Laura, or I, anecdotally upon leaving the meetings this has been great to just learn a little more about the options we have with ATI, MDI, the other associates that we're working with, but also just hearing what is all being considered by the board and was already previously considered by administration even before coming to the board, and have the ability to give thoughts on that. Many have said that's not something they've had in the past, that that's been a new thing that we did this year. It's usually been afterwards, like something was decided, they come in and they tell us more about that. So I think like in a moment where there's been stress, and there's been things along those lines. It's been great to find a little bit of celebration too, and that it is something different we've done as a district. However that came about, we could discuss, but I think most importantly is like, I look forward to collaborating and moving forward, and finding those celebrations in the days left as we count up to the end of the year, finding the kindness in each other as we continue to collaborate moving forward. So thank you for everybody's patience in that. Couple more things coming up. Tomorrow evening, we have the transition resource. So that's our 18 plus programming. It's taking place at the high school from 4:30 to 7:30. So even if you don't have a child yet moving into that program, it's a great opportunity to just learn a little more about resources that we have out there. So thank you to Leo and his team for getting that set up. There's been a variety of events this month, which has been really nice to see. I'm going to see attendance not only from our community, but from communities surrounding us. Franklin Forward, we talk about that a lot, but the community survey deadline was this past Monday. Some results are still trickling in, which is great, but we will bring those results through school perceptions to the school board on May 22nd. Our community and education recreation guide is out. So it opens for Franklin residents on May 1st to register for any of the courses. So if you haven't taken a look online, there's a lot of great existing opportunities from the past and a lot of new ones coming in. It opens up to non-residents on May 8th. And then finally, kind of a neat thing that was different that Pleasant View did this year, so thank you to our art department, was I believe it was 1st and 4th grade, had a virtual art visit from a professional artist, Reggie Laurent. So the pictures, if you haven't seen them on social media, the students were at the tables in the cafeteria or gym, whichever you want to call it. And he was virtual, and the students all had their bags of their supplies to create projects that kind of resembled the artwork he does. And he modeled for them, he spoke with them. It was very interactive and a neat experience. So I'm excited that they had that opportunity, and sad I missed it at overlapping meetings, but Chad was able to get some great pictures. So look forward to what's ahead of us in the count up to the end of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, reports, presentations, and other school board business, 24-25 Board of Education meeting dates. This is an action item. I will be looking for a motion to approve as presented. Of note, as we talked about last time, there is only one meeting in January instead of two, but no other real changes. Usually the second and fourth Wednesday of the month, except for February and March when it's the first and third, and that's done so that we don't have a meeting over spring break. Does anybody have any? Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the 24-25 Board of Education meeting dates as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Sapersky, seconded by Dr. Beer. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Health insurance proposal, Mr. Cromie and Ms. Lancour.
All right, thank you. So tonight we're here to talk about health insurance proposal. We talked about at both board meetings in March. Couple of pieces of information from that have been requested over the last day or so. So I'm just going to put that out before I go through this. One, the question on per employee per month cost for Garner is $8. In order to fund those reimbursement rates, there's what's called overlay in option 5 is $15 per employee per month. Enhanced, which is option 4 and 5, option 4 for everybody, option 5 for the $4,000 plan is $69 a month. That's already baked into the cake of all the things we've talked about, but those are the per employee per month costs which were asked. The second piece of information relates to cost per individual or family based on the plan. So I got this about 45 minutes ago, so I'm giving this data kind of live to you. As it was requested, got it late today. So for the $400-800 plan, people reaching $400 or less in the single only. So we have a single $400 deductible. $400 or less is 54.3%. Less than $1,000 out of pocket is 88%. less than 2,000 out of pocket is 95%.
I'm sorry, I just realized you're answering answering the question I asked.
Yes.
So could you say that again?
Yes. I'm using less than 400 for the first amount because that's strictly the deductible for single.
Okay, and this is for the lower premium plan?
Yep, 54.3% less than 400. Then I'm using thousands after that. So
Got it.
less than 1,000, 88%.
Okay.
Less than 2,000 is 95.7. And those are out-of-pocket total costs for people on that plan. Under the family plan, I'm going to use $800 in total. So family less than 800 is 45.2. Less than 1,000 is 57.3. Less than 2,000 is 90%. Then switching to the higher deductible plan, the $2,000, $4,000 plan, I'm just gonna go on 1,000, 2,000 for single, is under $1,000 or under is 80.6%. 2,000 or under is 88.9. For the family plan, less than $2,000 is 60%, and less than $4,000 is 85.7%.
Thanks.
Okay, all right. I'm only going to bring a couple of pieces of information. This is not a long slide deck. This first graph is something that I track and I wasn't here when self-funding started, but using the data from self-funding. So the blue line is our monthly expense related to our monthly premium collection. So you'll see a dark black line at 100% in the middle. So that 100% would represent the amount of premium collected is the amount of expense paid. So you'll see that kind of goes up and down and depends on the time of year as well, right? So typically summer's going to have some higher months, September is typically pretty low, and it has some cyclical values. But in any case, you can see that we're moving higher than 100% in many months. The red and the yellow are very close together. Actually, I was asked to change colors on this. It got worse. But the red is a 24-month straight trend. So taking a total of the last 24 months and dividing the expenses by premium. Yellow is using a 60-40, so essentially how a healthcare plan would rate you, taking the last 12 months as 60%, taking the 12 months prior, so months 13 through 24 at 40%. You can see that those are both very close. In any case, through March of 24 here, our health plan is trending at 108.9%, meaning for every dollar of premium we get, we're paying out $1.08.9. The second piece of information breaks our health plan into two parts. So you'll see our $400, $800 deductible plan on the left. That second bar is our $2,000, $4,000 deductible plan. And then we have our retirees broken out separately. So we have our pre-65 retirees, so using that Medicare age, and we have our post-65 retirees. This represents fixed costs, so we pay UMR to process our claims. And then actual medical claims through March of 24, no runout included. So for those of you in the medical field, know that runout continues for usually a couple of months, right? This is actual, like the strict dollar that's actually been paid. So you'll see that our $400 plan is above that average, which is the dotted line, in all three other areas that we break our health plan into, fund below that, so essentially helping to subsidize that $400 plan. These are the results of the survey that you were provided yesterday. Survey was very simple, one question. It asked you to pick the two options you felt best about, and you can see options 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 listed down the side. So this came out post our last meeting with staff, which would have been last week Thursday, and asked to collect data through Sunday. Based on some interviews we had Monday, this ended up closing at about 2:30, so results still trickled in. There was probably 50 people that still trickled in on Monday inside of that particular piece. In kind of thinking about the 6 healthcare options we have, what I would like to just think about is what is their effect on our plan long-term. So some of them, options 2 through 5 all solve next year, but do they all help for the future years? And the answer is going to be no. So option one, eliminating cash in lieu, doesn't change behavior at all. In fact, it doesn't even meet the $650,000. It nets about $297,000. Option two, freezing our district health contributions, does not encourage behavior change. So adding people paying more premium isn't going to change how we're going to utilize our health care. Modifications to our health plan structures, which was option three, changing deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance, actually will discourage health plan use long-term, as people will look to avoid it. So there's short-term savings in there for sure, because as people avoid it, you're not paying those particular medical bills. But as we avoid things, we typically know they cascade, and at some point we have a much larger issue on our hands. Option four, which is the current plan with the Garner Enhanced add-on, that's the one we've talked about in March extensively, encourages behavior change in both Plan 1 and Plan 2 through that deductible change. Option five, which is the current plan, then with Garner overlay. So if you took a look at the plans, you'll notice deductible doesn't change and the reimbursement's smaller. Plan 2 has actually a larger deductible change, but a larger reimbursement as well. Encourages behavior change in Plan 2 through that larger deductible change, and has potential to encourage some change in Plan 1. But again, we're changing premium in Plan 1 to try to work around that particular piece. Centivo is option 6. It encourages behavior change from current Aurora users, but not necessarily overall. The other piece with Centivo that has really come about in Laura and I thinking about how to present this is the ability for our network to flip-flop on a yearly basis. So if Aurora's cut out in year 1 and Aurora decides like we're getting back into the business and we're going to change the way we operate, that has the potential to kick Freighter out as the high option. And now it's possible that that's changing on a yearly basis. The other part about Centivo is it's not really great for out-of-state care. So if we have retirees who are out of state, or if we have dependents who happen to be out of state, like high-cost things, they didn't actually encourage you to come to Wisconsin so that you fall inside that plan. So the last piece I just want to bring us back to is that $400 plan is consistently operating year over year. And the other components that we have, the Plan 2, the 2,000, 4,000, and then the plan that our retirees are, which are pre-65 are on one of those two plans, but still operating below. Our post-65 retirees, they're on that Medicare supplement piece. But again, all three of those other options are subsidizing our $400, $800 current plan. And again, Garner option 4 encourages change in both plans through increased deductible but reimbursement. And then Garner 5 encourages that in Plan 2 with that even increased deductible change, and some potential to change inside of Plan 1, but Plan 1's plan design doesn't really change, or shouldn't say doesn't change at all. Premium increase changes. That's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We have Chris Verley and Lisa Minucci. I'll invite them to the table. They're here from Brown & Brown. You've met with Amanda last couple times. She couldn't make it tonight. Chris and Lisa, we actually work with on a much more daily basis. So they're out doing the legwork on a daily basis for us. They work hand in hand with Amanda, though.
Thank you. Please, Angie.
Can you just comment on just refresh my mind, how much of the overall cost of our health insurance plan is provided by the amount that comes from our general fund, like in other words, district provided versus employee contributions, and how much did that increase percentage-wise from last year to this year, or from the proposed budget?
So I don't have a breakdown between the plans, but I can talk the plans separately, but I'll give you
just like in
broad
generally,
idea. So for the $400, $800 plan, that is funded at 88% for the district. The single plan, I always forget exactly what the single plan is, but it's somewhere around $11,000. A family plan is $28,000 plus.
Okay.
Funded at 88% by the district. The $2,000, $4,000 plan, again, the single one always is out of my mind, but that's somewhere around $10,000. The family plan is $22,500. That is funded at 95% by the district.
And that's been the case for the past few years?
Yeah, past few years. Last year, we did do a 10% increase across the board as part of our entire budget process.
Thank you.
Linda, please.
A quick question. So 28,000 is the most expensive plan. It's a family for the 400, 800. How does that compare to around the state? Is that a really high cost plan or is it average? Where does it fall in the range?
Based on plan design, it's pretty average, but that plan design is above the average benchmark for the state. So the cost is thus higher than the average benchmark. When you're comparing that $400 plan to other plans, it's running about the same for that family rate.
For that
Yep.
rich plan?
Mm-hmm.
And if we just didn't worry about that, just look at the cost, where does it fall in the range of?
Just cost, it is above. Average for family coverage is about 23,000.
And it's reflected obviously in some plan design. To get to that number, you
Correct.
have some other
Correct.
things going on. Okay. And typically, can you say what the deductible is? And is there co-insurance? Are there features that are common across that to get to the
For
23?
average across
Yep.
state, for public sector or public and private?
Are they that different?
There are, yeah. I would say based on public sector, we're seeing the average deductible around that $1,000 range. Private sector, it depends on what kind of plan design they have. There's, not to get too complicated, but there's the ability to have health savings accounts with high deductible health plans. Those are obviously much higher, but if we look at just a traditional plan, it's around $1,500.
What about co-insurance?
The co-insurance, the percentage is usually 80, 90%. So just depends on what the out-of-pocket maximum is. That's probably the bigger driver cost behind it than the co-insurance percentage. Again, I would say that your out-of-pocket amounts are fairly better than the benchmarks. For public sector, private sector is much higher. They're typically closer to what's the max allowed under healthcare reform. So anywhere in that 7,000 to 9,000 range for single and then double that for family.
In the private sector?
Private sector, yep. It also varies by industry as well. I mean, there's a lot of different variables. I'm giving you like a very general.
Right.
If there's a need for it, we can always share benchmark data with Andy.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I have something I'd like to say. Ms. Lancour, Mr. Cromie, Mrs. Bennon, we all work together fairly closely as the board, especially me, but I do hear about what's happening beforehand, possibly more than others, or what talks are, maybe not specifics, but I appreciate that there has been countless options talked about over the last year and not considered because healthcare is really, really difficult right now and really, really ridiculous. It's not a Franklin problem. It's a problem around the state and around the country. It's gone up exponentially. I happen to live with somebody who deals with healthcare and insurance for a job, and she thinks our plan is amazing and for the employees, but it's what I think of this is there are no great options, but this is option 4 is the option with upside. None of the other options, as Andy was talking about before, have much upside. They're just paying more money, and so I will be supporting option 4 for cost certainty reasons, but I guess I'm looking for a motion to.
I would like to talk about whether there aren't I do see some benefits in option 5 with the thought that because for me, the reason I wanted to see this hybrid model was just out of this sort of wanting to see how Garner works. And I'm very hopeful and very confident that it will work as our consultants have indicated that it will. And if that does prove to be the case, there's no reason we couldn't then move to more of an option 4 model a year or 2 down the line. Option 5 does get us out of our budgetary deficit. And the way I calculated things, if Garner works on both of the plans, Plan 1 and Plan 2, and if employees use it to full fidelity, they could all come out ahead. money-wise. They could actually make money off of it, or is that correct?
Be made more whole than they are this year, for sure.
Be made more whole, yes, that would be, but the big risk with it is people in the higher deductible plan, which we've been calling Plan 2, if they don't modify their behavior and choose to seek out more quality care providers, it could potentially be a higher, significantly higher deductible. However, I think that especially what you just gave us in terms of the number of people who get anywhere near meeting their deductible from year to year, I think that it's not an unreasonable thing to ask.
The issue, please, Maksud.
So I'd like to definitely thank Mr. Cromie, Ms. Lancor, and the administration to take a deep look into the health insurance. Health insurance is definitely exponential rise in the cost, but when it came to us initially, my question and request was, have we heard about from the staff? Because as board members, we are making decisions about health insurance, which is very, very important and vital to someone's family and their livelihood, you can say, about the access to health care. And as a physician who's practicing right now, I can see the accessibility to health care makes a big difference. So take into consideration not only the options, but also what our employees are saying. When we requested the survey, I know it's not 100%, we will not be able to please all the employees, but most of our employees have requested an option 5 to go with, which at least, and I don't want to use the word change in behavior,
Yeah.
Because it's not an appropriate word to use the change in behavior of the employees. It's a change in approach to healthcare, so take into consideration the challenges which we are facing in this inflation right now. I think option 5 will give the best scenario, because the biggest asset which the district has, we can have the best buildings, best roads, and all the facilities, but if we don't have educators who are invested in educating our kids, we'll not be able to achieve the best place to work and best place to learn model which we have as the coherence plan. So with that being said, I think my request will be for board to consider option 5 as the go-to. It also gives as a data of how this plans out, and hopefully, as Mr. Cromie has evaluated and a consultant has stated, hopefully it comes out in a positive manner. It will definitely change preferences, not behavior of the employees. Thank you.
Is
So
there
I would just like to add one thing in relation to that. So the graph again that we're looking at shows our $400 plan is driving pretty much our entire health plan for the most part. Under option 5, we're increasing premium. So the data that I gave you before, that $400 on the single premium, in option 5, a single person in that plan is guaranteed to pay $435, $440 more, guaranteed to pay that. In the family plan version of it, they're guaranteed to pay over $1,000 more just to have that. So when I think about how we approach healthcare, if we're willing to pay more to do the same, how are we going to approach healthcare different for the long term?
I hear what you're saying, but I also think that, I hear what you're saying. I guess I don't see why it couldn't happen over a couple years, and if this got us out of our budgetary shortfall for a year. Is there some other downside I'm seeing other than the fact that it would not get us ahead, it wouldn't solve everything immediately?
So if we don't really do anything to change the $400 plan, we're probably sitting here next year doing the same thing.
But we will have more information.
We'll have more information.
We'll have a year
from
of Garner information.
From the $2,000, $4,000
Please,
plan for
please.
sure, and possibly from the $400, $800 plan. But again, if I'm willing to pay, if I have a family plan, willing to pay $1,000 more for it, just up front, automatically, to try to keep everything the same as it's operating today, I don't know if that changes anything.
What do you mean by anything?
I don't know if that changes the way the plan works. Our plan having a plan 1 and a plan 2.
It probably won't, but it will at least get us to balance our budget for this year, right?
Right, so just think about that, though. We're solving a 1-year problem. Healthcare isn't a 1-year problem. It's an
I agree.
every-year problem.
I agree with you.
And certainly, I mean, whatever plan we choose, we will be having this conversation again next year because healthcare is a yearly endeavor, right?
Well, last year we chose to just add 10% and go with it as part of our budget. So we didn't have this conversation, right? But then we saw that just tacked on another 10%.
Yeah,
If we use Plan 5 instead of Plan 4, and people don't really use Garner, what have we, is there a way that our budget will not be balanced? So we're just asking people for.
That option 5 is designed to make this year work. Find that 605,000 or 650,000, keep our plan design, or not our plan design, but our health expense relatively even. That's where it's designed to. But again, we're really only in that case modifying Plan 2, which is already operating relatively low in comparison to everything else on a per employee per month basis.
but it is allowing that choice for someone who wants to stay exactly the same and not have to change anything, even if they have to pay a little bit more. It gives them that choice versus forcing someone to, change a doctor in order to meet the Garner requirements.
Yep, I don't disagree with that, but we've seen that that's just added 10% each of the last 2 years.
But with Garner,
That mindset.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna finish. With that mindset, we've just added 10% each of the last 2 years, trying to keep everything exactly as it is today.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare has changed. As a healthcare worker myself and as, someone with chronic issues that uses a lot of healthcare, I mean, healthcare has changed. There's a lot of change in it, but it's a very personal thing, and I think it's important to offer that choice to our employees when we can. We might not always be able to, but if we can do that this year, offer that choice, allow people to make the decision that's best for them, for their families, for their medical situations, and then, as I think it was Angie pointed out, have that information for next year. Either Garner is this amazing thing and we'll feel stupid for not just jumping onto it this year, or Garner really doesn't work at all. It doesn't change the behavior. It doesn't, help us necessarily, and we look to other options from there. But at least we have data, and not just data from places out of state, but actual Franklin-based data to help us make that decision. That's what kind of draws me to our option 5.
And I think, why did we put out the survey if we weren't going to factor in that in our decision too? Because that's the one that came out on top, I think, right?
It did, and I agree. I think having the data helps us make the decision. But again, we have to make a decision as a whole.
Yeah.
And people that took that survey made that decision for them. So those are not necessarily comparing the same apples to apples.
You can, and if I'm right, you can use Garner or not.
Yeah.
100%.
In both plans.
In
option
both
4 or
4 and
5.
5. You can use Garner or not. If you use it, you're going to be reimbursed.
Yeah.
Based on the data, you're likely more than whole compared to this year if you choose a Garner,
And
doctor in the Garner app.
clearly there will be some people that will not find their doctor in Garner, but my understanding is that the majority will.
That part, I certainly
That use
can't
it.
say that. Will people have to change? Yes. Will there be people on there? Yep. But will everybody? I would say very highly likely not, that everybody's going to be using a Garner provided physician.
Angie, please.
Can I just ask a question to our consultant friends? If we were to use this hybrid model, do you think, based on what you know about consumer behavior, that we would have a robust enough experience with Garner to draw any conclusions about it after a year?
After a year's worth of data, yeah, we would definitely have ideas of how the utilization's going. We actually will see on a quarterly basis, we'll see reporting on
Okay.
how utilization's going. It's gonna be very high level reporting, just like not down to any individual specific
I wouldn't
information,
want that.
but high level, so we'll know. And yeah, if members, the bottom line is if people use it, regardless if it's the 400 plan or the $2,000 plan, if people use the Gartner app and get that incentive, it will help reduce costs.
Do you have any thoughts or guidance that you'll be able to provide us about how best to educate our staff about this? Because that's part of the whole
Yep.
shebang.
Yep, we'll be using similar things as last year, so Brain Shark is one that's probably really popular with our staff. So that's kind of a video walking you through everything. It's really become part of the industry is using some sort of platform. Certainly Laura and I will be working on that communication platform, whether that's coming out to the staff again to explain exactly how it works or walking people through it or putting out a video of like actually logging in so people can see what that looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have questions? All right, I'm looking for a motion.
I move that we adopt option 5.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Yank. Any further discussion? A point of clarification, does that motion include anything for the cash in lieu?
So that's a separate motion.
No.
Thank you. All right, so the motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Linda has something.
Linda, please.
I think 5 has good merit because it does have the Gardner thing, which is the question. We'll have data. It's only for a year. And it keeps things largely the same. I know that's the concerns, particularly on the deductible side, but we are changing it for Plan 2. So again, there would be a comparison. Do you need the deductible change and the Gardner to make an impact? Or is it just the Gardner?
I would think we would see a mass amount of people slide out of Plan 2 if it went to 5,000, 10,000 without a reimbursement.
Yeah.
Into Plan 1.
But you still are calculating the required savings that we need. Correct? There's no concerns there. The savings are there.
We're estimating if Plan 1 and Plan 2 stay as they're designed, yes. But like if we took the Garner reimbursement out of Plan 2, I'm pretty sure we'd probably see a mass exodus of people out of Plan 2. Which then that calculation is not based on pulling Garner out.
Right. It seems to me what makes this work though is largely that 15.5% premium share. I mean, that's a significant shift also, but employees are okay with that, apparently. So I think I could support this plan.
All right, any further comment? All right, I'd like a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Witkowski,
Aye.
Dr. Khan,
Aye.
I vote aye. Mrs. Sapersky,
Aye.
Mr. Sprague,
No.
Dr. Beer,
Aye.
Mrs. Yank,
Aye.
motion passes by a vote of 6-1 in favor of option 5 for insurance.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion for cash in lieu.
What was the amount?
It is
We're using 5,904, I think.
And that's just for this year?
6,792.
Yes.
The motion's written in there for
Yeah,
both
the motion's
years.
however you choose to make the motion. So I had originally written it as 2 years, but moving it to 1 year, totally fine.
I move that the cash in lieu offering be reduced from 6,792 to 5,904 for the upcoming year.
Second as well.
All right, motion's been made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Yank. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, CISA 1 2425 Agreement for Services, action item. Looking for a motion to approve.
I move that we accept the CISA 1 2425 Agreement for Services as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Board liaison roles discussion. Thank you, everyone, or most everyone, for filling out the board liaison roles survey. Thank you. It came across, when I tried to print it out, it came across as so tiny that I couldn't read it with
It looks like a one
my
point
grandmother's
font.
bifocals. It is the tiniest thing I've ever seen. So I wrote them out, and we don't have to go over it. There are a few things I would like to talk about. One of the things we talked about in our workshop was school administrative and outward-facing roles will rotate annually. And I think there's some roles, I don't remember exactly what we decided, but I think there are some roles that will rotate annually and some that probably won't. Like, for instance, I would have the same role this year as I did last year.
Which is working with
govern-
Mrs. Bennett.
Which is working with Mrs. Bennett, and that's certainly not going to change. But of note, Dr. Khan, the finance, has usually been the treasurer's role. I don't know if we'd like to change that.
It's kind of up to Dr. Khan.
No, continue. Continue.
You think it should be the same?
Yeah.
I'm certainly fine with that.
It makes sense.
It does make sense. I have, the other thing I'd like to is the survey's been filled out. I have roughly answers of either everybody's first or second choice, although they're not all made yet, but is it okay if I hand out the roles based on the survey?
Yes.
And what I think is best, I'll certainly ask people if there's a
That's
huge
fine.
discrepancy. And then as far as schools go, everybody will, I know what schools everybody's had over the last 21 years for Debbie, but. Sorry,
You haven't
Debbie.
been assigned to schools for 21 years.
She has not been assigned
You're
to
on
the
for
same
like
school.
fifth rotation.
What do you
But
have
those will rotate.
inscribed in tablets?
That old, jeez.
Using inkwells when
I think, yes,
So did anybody have any comment?
I'm fine with you assigning us things as you think sees fit, but if anybody doesn't like that, I think now would be the time to speak up.
I mean, I only got to Robinwood once, so I don't know.
You better get there one more time before they.
I'm going to the
Okay.
Wayland School thing, I think. They invited me to that. So I don't know, I don't know how important it is to keep the same school, or,
The schools have
rotated.
generally been rotated.
okay.
That's a good idea. I think you've asked for input and we've filled out surveys and we trust you to make those decisions. That's,
Yeah. No, that's totally fine.
and if we want to fight about it, we can fight off camera.
In the parking lot.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments? All right, that's what I will do. I have taken we took out the graduation handing out of diplomas. Everybody's at graduation. I think it's fair to kind of rotate that. this year is gonna be quite a rotation since there are 5 of us with children graduating. So it'll be a
And then
carousel up there, I
you two is like
imagine.
Sprague, Sapersky, and this is like Con Kim, so it's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be
not
real
even-
close. We'll do the front end of the alphabet and just keep an eye on each other,
Mm-hmm.
and you do the back
Well,
end.
it could also be, and I don't know how much this would like slow things down, but it could be that graduates like shake everybody's hand as they go across the stage.
Well, that'll slow everything down.
Well,
That
I
was,
understand that, I'm just,
that was a
trying to
long
prevent
line
you
at 8th
from,
grade
like-
graduation last year,
it was.
and probably unnecessary for what they wanna do.
I understand, I was just trying to say, if we're trying not to arm wrestle on stage over who gets which
I
part of
think-
the alphabet.
I don't,
We'll be able to
I don't
figure
plan
it
to
out.
arm wrestle. My child will probably largely ignore me, so.
You can take up to Sapersky, and then I'll start right after that. And then very
have to
soon
give it
after,
up
very soon
to
after
get-
Sprague, Mary will take over.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
And I can't remember, did the CRC have a liaison?
CRC does not have a liaison. We
Is there a
don't,
reason
we're
for
not,
that?
You can't,
You
you need
can't.
special
Oh.
clearance to
Yeah,
get
we-
there,
you-
right?
Okay, and I didn't mean like
Yeah.
going there, I just thought as a meeting with Claire or something. I don't know what we do, frankly,
Yeah.
but, okay, just a quick question. Thanks.
the other thing is they start July 1st. We did talk about that, but just want to say that for
Okay, very good.
clarification. And Angie, you will be still in charge of the 8th grade recognition service, or
I've got it on my
whatever we've
calendar.
decided to call it.
Promotion.
Promotion, thank you. And that will always be the person that is in, that is at Forest Park.
I mean, other people can attend, but
Yep.
you're just.
Absolutely,
I was
yes.
the liaison, so I get to be on, I get to be on
Yes.
stage.
You get to speak.
Yeah. you get to
Make
say-
We're all
a
gonna be on
speech.
stage.
At the middle school? Oh, is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I think that's to be determined. It seemed like there was a lot of people on stage, but,
Oh, I was there last year, I was on stage.
but yeah, I think we should be on stage and maybe not, they
Wait.
did go through a line that everybody shook hands. It was kind of weird, but, just
figure
not
it out.
weird, not weird, but long, but yeah, I
We'll
don't,
figure it out.
but certainly board members should be on stage. All right, any further discussion about liaisons? All right, thank you. Board self-evaluation discussion. I wanted to start talking about this now because it was a thing last year, all of my own making. It went too late. But, and the self-evaluation didn't change all that much. But what I see the self-evaluation as doing is we need to evaluate ourselves and how we think we did, but it should be in furtherance of the coherence plan and the goals and how we want to go about doing it in a way that's effective for continued growth of the board and setting goals for the future. So I would suggest that Dr. Beer and I talk about evaluation. Please, anybody feel free to give feedback on what you'd like it to look like. And perhaps we come up with something that we fill out at some point in May.
So the goal would be to have something filled out in May. Do we still want to just do like a written survey type of a thing that we review? Or is there some other
It can be a written survey. I just
approach
think
that-
what we've done hasn't ever really been effective.
I agree.
Like the questions are hard to answer because they aren't like real clear. I feel like what we've done in the past hasn't ever really gotten us anything.
I agree.
Would
I
there
I
agree.
think, maybe because having just a open, respectful discussion, about our evaluation rather than because we fill out a survey, okay, and then, I think just, it must be time of self-reflection, but just because we can be, if you want to be, maybe it can even at a board retreat, so that we can just talk about stuff and reflect ourselves, and areas which we can improve. I think that is because filling in a survey, okay, fill in a survey and then what, So rather than filling a survey, I think, in a retreat, we just talk about, the areas of opportunities, the areas of self-evaluation. That is a better outcome rather than because I think that's the way to build up the bridges and close the gaps, to make a more cohesive board.
There's nothing in the bylaws that says it has to be done a certain way, or the bylaw, right, in our policies. I don't think, nothing that states it has to be.
Has to be one. I think it's nice to have the
administered.
questions of a survey, just to kind of guide that discussion, if you would, maybe. I'm not opposed to having a survey to fill out. I just don't think what we have filled out has been great. And I think it's helpful that we've usually discussed it afterward, but when you're discussing something that wasn't real effective, there's not a lot to discuss. So a survey with better questions could then lead to open discussion.
What type of, so in the area of better questions, like what sort of very larger categories of information do you think we should be discussing?
I don't think we have to, reinvent the wheel here. I mean, lots of state organizations, even Wisconsin, have board evaluation tools. So we've used those different ones in the past. People have combed through them and tried to make it ours, and we just don't like the results. It's never generated the kind of meaningful discussion that we're looking for.
So do you think it's less how we deal with the result, or less the questions and more just what we do with the results? So maybe getting back to what Maksud said of doing it, having an opportunity where we just can sort of freewheelingly discuss them?
Or maybe we just all do the survey together,
Okay,
each question.
that's an
What do you
interesting
think?
idea.
How should we answer that? I think part of the difficulty of those questions is always the grading, what those.
The ranking.
Yeah, the
ranking.
rankings.
It's
Yeah,
always like,
that's-
we've got, we met all of them,
Do
some
you
of
want-
them.
You want
or-
more essay questions and less multiple choice?
No, just a different, no. we
The
have a
answer
hard
to that
time.
is
Or
always
oral
no. It doesn't
exam,
matter
more
what
of an
the
oral
setting.
exam and less of a written exam at all. Okay,
Well, and if the questions are, I mean, if Mike is saying we need to be, and I don't mean to like blame Mike, but like if we're trying to be more inclusive of the coherence plan, maybe we need to just make sure that the questions are directly related back to that. Maybe that could guide the discussion.
The only thing I would add is I think we should have some sort of follow-up to the workshops we did with Joanne and her friend, because we did set some goals in there, and we should probably kind of just look back on how we are doing with those. So maybe, do we want to try and just get another retreat on the calendar? Because we haven't had enough meetings and
I like the idea of a retreat. I think it's hard to find calendar time, but if we can commit to it and get it done sooner rather than later.
And it can
before gets
literally
into-
just be the board. Like, I don't want to create another meeting for you, Emily, so I think we could.
I think you have a May work study on, and let me just verify before.
We do, it's related to.
May 28th, right, and I was gonna cancel it today, because we're gonna go through those survey results the week prior, and you'll have the June meeting, so depending on if you wanna use that for additional time on the survey, or you could capitalize on that time that's already on everybody's calendar,
I like that.
potentially, like, we'd have to check if you wanna get Joanne and Brian back, we'd just have to check with them on their availability.
I don't necessarily, I mean, I like Joanne and Brian,
I'm
but I
not sure
think we
that
can.
that's necessary
yeah.
for this
Even-
meeting.
Yeah, even just to be able to.
So
talk
what if
about
we
what
try and have more of less fill out of a survey ahead of time, try and find some general discussion questions, perhaps from one of the resources that Linda mentioned.
WNSP has an
And
online.
we'll just try and have
tool.
a
Wine.
conversation.
Look at.
Cheese and
Right,
crumbles,
so let's-
wine on school.
Okay, let's try it.
Do it together.
Does that sound okay with you, Mike?
That sounds great.
Let's do it.
We've never done it that way.
Is that okay?
First after
Yeah.
21 years.
I know, I would know, right?
We're trying to keep things fresh for you, Debbie.
Thank God, because I hate that board so badly.
Debbie never filled it out.
Never, yeah.
Debbie doesn't feel.
I don't.
We always said, who would fill it out?
That's funny.
Even after you sat on the committee and helped
I know.
rewrite it. I
I
went,
know.
what?
I still
Alright.
hated it.
Does that feel okay, Mike?
That feels great. Thank
Okay.
you. All right, anybody else have anything to offer? All right, city and district stoplight at 51st Street. MOU modification.
This is pretty
Mrs.
quick.
Brennan.
Yeah, this is pretty fast. We brought this last meeting, and then the city said they sent us the wrong MOU on accidents. There's just one minor change, but we thought it best to just bring it back through the board for quick approval. Originally was we had full control over the light. Now the city has control over the system, which makes sense.
Okay.
So it's really just
Thought that
approval
was
on,
more appropriate.
yeah, the approval on the combination. We could still work with them on it. It's actually more collaborative this way, in my opinion.
It was a change that Mr. Morrow, the city engineer, suggested at the.
At the Common Council meeting.
At the Common Council meeting, and that's the way the Common Council approved it. It seemed like a reasonable request.
So modifications meaning like if you want it to have a longer green one way or a longer walks, like that kind of stuff, the city has to go in and program that. That's not.
Yes, we will
that's
not be in
Steve's
charge of
job.
programming.
Thinking about like events,
Mhm.
Saber Center events or whatever have you, they'll adjust it. We'll just work with the city based on our calendar that comes out of rec, who schedules all that stuff to.
So I guess my only question there is who is the person at the district who would specifically talk to the city?
The
Like,
city has a, the city will contract with somebody who, the city won't be the one that actually does it. They'll contract with somebody who does it. It just means they'll have the liability.
It's probably most likely going to be Leah, given the rec department and her role in scheduling with that, but we'll narrow that down with the
Yeah,
city to
just-
make sure we have a
Just so you
specific.
don't have 12 different people in the district all trying
Yeah,
to reach out to
specific
somebody
one
saying,
on
I
each
need it
side.
this way. Yeah.
So those two are communicating, and then who's the backup should Leah be
Oh, I
out
thought
for
you meant a
whoever it
specific
was.
person in charge of the light on each side of the street. Okay.
No.
A different person for each light.
You don't want green going north and red
No.
going south. And that not
I
working.
trust Leah implicitly. That
Uh-huh.
sounds great. I move to approve the updated city district stoplight MOU as presented.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Larson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, policies 5222, concussion, traumatic brain injury, 5321, life-sustaining emergency care, 5375, ensuring the educational stability of children in out-of-home care, foster care, 6220, Title I policy, 6312, student promotion and retention, 6731, field trips and extended travel. And I'm looking for a motion to approve all of those.
So moved.
Second.
Our motion was made by Mrs. Larson, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. School board liaison reports.
I went to a couple things with student services. One was a presentation to parents of children with special needs regarding guardianship and power of attorney. It was actually attended by people outside of the district as well, so that was pretty cool. And then a couple days ago, there was a presentation on autism, again, attended by people outside the district, not as many as we'd hoped from Franklin, but so informative, just, the challenges that these parents face is, intuitively, I can probably say what I can know that is a challenge, but just to talk with parents and interact with them, I'm so grateful that I'm getting to be on this, liaison with Leo. It's been great.
Thank you.
And my
Anybody
little
else?
report is in the library, and I don't know how to access that. I put it in there, but somebody's got to show me where it is. But it's in there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I can report on my liaison role with the Education Foundation. Just kind of a quick update, our scholarships, we had, I want to say it was like over 65 students apply for the scholarships, so those will be announced at the Senior Honors Award night that was mentioned. Our golf outing is coming up on June 14th, so if you haven't signed up for that yet, even if you're not a great golfer, it'll be a ton of fun. I'm sure the weather will be better this year than last.
Can't be worse.
Well, it didn't rain.
Don't say that.
So June 14th, and there'll be an auction with that as well. And then we had more grants, so we were able to approve a few more grants for our district. So good things happening at the Education Foundation.
Thank you. School and community engagement reports.
I just wanted to highlight one fun thing that I did this past week. So I think I don't know if we all received an invitation. I received an invitation from Grace, who's I can't think of her last name, Grace Transitional Services Bar, to participate in the mock interview experience with students in the area collaborative. And it was a great experience. And I would say they're all young men in our transitional services program in Franklin right now, but they presented themselves so well during these mock interviews. I was so proud of them. So that was really fun. Great experience. I think it's because I always send back a little note after we get the newsletter from transitional services. And so I think she just said, oh, she must be a little interested. So just send her a little note after if you think you might want to do that next year.
I asked her to invite us all,
Oh, well, that'll do it too.
and then I couldn't go.
Oh,
But it was a great experience. I did
Yeah.
it last year.
Community-wise, I don't know how many, if everybody got to Hello Dolly, but that was a fabulous performance. I really love that partnership with our Forte Theater using the Saber Center, and lots of good comments just from, I always just like to hang out and listen to people talk about how great the facility, people have never been there before, so it's just a real point of pride for Franklin. We did have key communicators, which was a community thing, and then we also had yes, with the Franklin Forward and the tour on
April 15th,
last week, Monday.
tax day.
Tax day, yeah. But again, people who, coming through and learning about the project for the first time and asking some really good questions, that was a good moment. And then just, hats off to the high school for putting together a very nice prom experience on Saturday night.
Yeah, prom seemed to be a great experience, at least in my household, so.
It was fun to see, all the students, all the parents, everybody out, even though it was cold. There was a lot of Franklin pride down on the lakefront on Saturday.
All right, anyone else?
I also attended the key communicators event. It was, I think, well attended, and I think good input, from the members as such. I think moving forward, I think they will try to engage continuously and give us the good insight. I think that's a good way of engaging in the community as such, different stakeholders. Thank you, Annalie, you did a great job, the presentation.
And you got to meet with the governor. Is that
Yeah.
was that recently?
So I was at Governor's Mansion on Saturday for lunch, and he really appreciated. I was wearing my badge as a Franklin School Board. He really appreciated my work as a physician and being on the school board.
Good job.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Future agenda items, Friends of Franklin recognition, Countrydale School presentation, technology report, annual curriculum review and adoption, buildings and grounds annual report, capital improvement 10-year plan, board liaison process check-in, and policies 6210, English language learners, 6430, services for children with disabilities, 6460, gifted and talented, 5500, records retention and confidentiality of student records, 5260, search and seizure, 6713, assistive technology and services, all first read. Toni Morrison, PE, Pleasant View, presenting on pedometers. Come on. Foundation purchase.
A lot of alliteration.
Tobacco poster winner presentation, Franklin Forward survey results, 2024-25 preliminary budget info, annual curriculum review adoption, approval of capital improvement 10-year plan, Better Place to Work task force report.
Can I just ask a question?
Please.
Letter G, board liaison process check-in. Is that what we just kind of
Yeah.
did?
Well, I think that's where we're supposed to circle back and say how Joanne and Brian's facilitated thing is working out. So can we just roll that into our self-evaluation thing on May 28th?
Sounds like a great idea.
Is D and M the same?
D and N, yes, it'll be,
It's like a first read, second read.
First read,
situation,
second
I
read.
think, right?
it got in there twice, probably shouldn't have, but yes, it's the same thing. Because it'll be a first read and a second read, that's why it's in there twice.
Letter D will be the first read, and then the next meeting, letter M will be the second read.
Future agenda always hits the next two meetings, so a lot of times if it's something for approval, we maybe won't list it twice. It's just listed twice there. Same with the policies,
Little
right? There'll be a
redundant.
first read and they'll come back for a second read. So in essence, this is everything we'll enjoy in May.
All right.
School board member comments. All right, I'm looking for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.851C for district administrator performance evaluation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Mrs. Sapersky. And we have a voice vote, please.
Mrs. Witkowski,
Aye.
Mrs. Sapersky,
Aye.
Dr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. Sprague,
Aye.
Dr. Beer,
Aye.
Mrs. Yank,
Aye.
and I vote aye.
Thank you. We are in closed session at 7:20.
All right, I move that we approve the evaluation and salary discussion from closed session. That was decided upon in closed session.
Second.
All right, motion was made and seconded. We need a voice vote.
Mr. Sprague,
Aye.
Dr. Beer. Aye. Mrs. Witkowski. Aye. Dr. Khan.
Aye.
Mrs. Sapersky.
Aye.
Mrs. Yank.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Motion passes 7-0.
So I'm gonna type up what we discussed. What we discussed in closed session, circulate to the board to make sure it accurately captures everything we discussed. Send it to Mike, who will then have a one-on-one meeting with Annalee to discuss.
We decided you can.
We would really like, hopefully, yes.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 9:45.
I can do it.